Good evening, and welcome to another edition of How to Rock the Virtual Stage. I'm the host, The Trigger, Rich Bontrager. My mission, my goal is to help you to rock the virtual stage better each and every week by having amazing guests on my show to talk about different aspects of virtual presentation, from broadcasting to on stage to marketing to branding. There's so many different areas that are all part of helping you rock the virtual stage. And I'm leveraging my own 30 years of broadcasting experience and bringing that here for you. The virtual stage has many different guests, and coming up next week, Mike Scribnick is going to be my guest. Mike is the CEO and founder of Grow, Get, Give. His whole goal is to help you to establish your business and gain financial security and wealth along the way. Coming up in 2 weeks, we're going to have Carol Kammerer with us. Carol is an internationally recognized personal branding expert. She's also a professional speaker. So join us in 2 weeks for Carol Kammerer. Now, coming up tonight, we're going to go back to the C-Suite. Jeffrey Hazlitt was on the show 2 weeks ago. And today we're going with the number 2 most present person in C-Suite Network. That is going to be Tricia Benn. Tricia is a partner. She is the COO, the Chief Community Officer, and she also is the GM for the Heroes Club. Now, one special amazing thing about Tricia is she hosts and runs most of the virtual events and meetings. So tonight we're going to talk a lot about how to run not just a small meeting, but big global impact meetings tonight. And she is on a mission to build a platform and a community that accelerates the success of all executives. She is a leader of executives, and she works in an amazing organization. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the virtual stage my friend Tricia Benn. Good evening, Tricia, and welcome to the virtual stage.
Thank you so much, Rich. It's so great to be here with you.
Hey, I want to go back to just teasing last night. We had so much fun, and we're going to talk a lot about the virtual stage and, of course, this amazing Zoom box. But kudos to you. I've been on more calls since joining C-Suite. I have seen how you, MC, host, run, but you also have a team behind you. But last night, Jeffrey Hazlitt, who was on 2 weeks ago, had a birthday. We won't say how old, but Jeffrey had a birthday. You helped orchestrate a surprise virtual party. Tell us about how you orchestrated that and the fun of making it not business, but this was high relationship, high fun.
We had so much fun, Rich. And anyone who works with my business partner, Jeffrey Hazlitt, knows there is almost no possibility of a surprise with Jeffrey. So, he is everywhere in all things. And when you least expect him to be there, there he is, And so the whole team, and we've got an extensive team inside of C-Suite, really took joy and pleasure from coordinating an event where we couldn't even put in our calendars that we were meeting to talk about the event, let alone the event itself. So it posed some interesting challenges, but everybody rallied around. We had people in C-Suite. Dave Vasudevan was making our invitations and our virtual screens. We had gives of all different kinds, from covers of magazines for him to scotch showing up at the door. And Tammy, his beautiful wife, brought the cake out while we had Peter Katz singing. I mean, we just had an absolute blast. And here's the other thing that I would say is such a key takeaway from that event is we really made it about him. So instead of having other people tell stories and have 150 people online for hours, we did 4 polling questions that led him to answer and tell a story, so everybody could kind of have fun with it. And then he could tell the story of, actually he owned a VW. He's a 6'3" guy. He owned a VW, and frequently it would disappear because the guys would take it, put it in the back of a pickup and move it to other places on him, so we could just really revel in the fact that it was his birthday. And of course we do this all the time. And to bring the whole C-Suite family together, just absolutely a joy all the way around.
Well, and that's one of the things you've done with C-Suite. And I do mean you specific, not just your team does a great job, but you specific, you really rock that as hostess. You keep things flowing. I mean, we do a lot of business, we do a lot of other big dreaming and conversations, but
Mhm.
you're able to also keep the high relationship so it doesn't drag like so many Zoom events. Now, you're not a broadcaster by trade, so how did you learn this skill? Where did that come from?
So actually, that's an interesting question for me, Rich. So I actually did work for a local community cable station. I volunteered early on. I guess I was in university. I have to even think back to it, and I actually did get accepted to the best journalism school in Canada. By then, I already had a master's, and I decided, I really think I need to try out this work thing. um, how many degrees are enough, and so I ended up starting out in political polling of all things, and did a ton of work with media companies. I wrote all of the press releases for our organization. It became Ipsos North America, so that's the company that I worked with. And so I always had tremendous connection to media and PR, and then I ended up building a business inside of Rogers in the media company. So I actually have a considerable amount of experience in that space and working with some of the most phenomenal people, as editors, journalists of all kinds, and publishers and so on, broadcasters. So it's kind of fun to think to how we create a really meaningful space
Yeah.
for our C-suite community.
So which one helps you more now? Is it the experience or the education? Which one, when you really look back on that, which one has really helped you here?
Well, what's really interesting is I'm actually leading the build of the business. I just happen to love business leaders and great people that build great businesses. And so it really is the perfect combination for me, Rich. I love figuring out how you create business models that work, that align people on a mission, and they've got that vision in mind of how they're going to get there, and creating the culture around the values that you share in alignment, and the monetization of how you make that business model not just stay, but exponentially grow. And so that's always been my focus. The irony of what we do is because our community is so tremendous, everybody's a VP or above, a business owner, an investor, or an influencer like you with this tremendous stage that you've built and have. And so it's just bringing all of that together in one place. So it couldn't possibly be a greater fit in terms of my DNA. And I also have a theory about what's happened with COVID and us all moving to these screens, right? I
Yeah,
think,
please tell us because that was gonna be my next question was COVID hit, and I know because I've heard the story a little bit, but you guys had a conversation about what do we do with our growing community. You
yep.
guys also said we want to accelerate the community, and there was somewhere Jeffrey or you or Jennifer or someone said we can actually accelerate by going virtual now. How did that happen? What was because you guys not only pivoted like a lot of people did, you guys exploded when you pivoted.
Yes. So on March 13th, and I've only started saying this in the last 2 weeks because it's absolutely in the rear view. But on March 13th, our business model broke completely. We had very high level memberships, high touch, and in-person contact. And that was our business model. Now, our strategy was always to get to where we've gotten, maybe in the next 2 to 5 years. So I'd say, we've fast forwarded at least 2 to 3 years just in the last few months without doubt. We were rewriting the strat plan 6 weeks into COVID. That's how quickly we pivoted. And I have to credit Jeffrey so much because on that Monday, so the 16th of March, he said, we're going to drive and thrive. And Rich, I mean, we just all of us, the whole C-Suite Network community rallied around. Absolutely. We're driving and thriving. We're business first responders. Pick your, big pants up, your big
I
person,
love that phrase, by the way. I love that
right?
phrase.
And let's go. And I think what really happened, and I can talk about the business model more. I love that. but coming back to this screen, the real benefit I think that we saw with C-Suite is the fact that it truly is authentic. Our brand promise is, as you said, to help executives, owners, investors, and influencers succeed faster. And that's because the base of our value system is that great businesses will have great success, which will mean great impact. It's about the giving back, the sharing in our success, and empowering others to create that great impact. And so the authenticity of that promise and what it means to us as we build this business that supports everybody else in the success of their business, it just couldn't be more aligned. So that little screen has made it so that smoke and mirrors don't matter. You
But
and
again, like I tell, yeah, because this screen is not tiny, and which is one of the first things I said back in April, May, when this whole thing began, and I launched what I'm doing. And now we brought it to C-Suite, but I said this is ever expanding. C-Suite now demonstrates that every Friday, every Tuesday, every meeting, it's ever expanding. It's a global thing. But as we've now experienced, there's an emotion. We're actually talking about people's hospital visits. We're not just talking business here. C-Suite are executives. They're ties and suits. They're money and their dollars. What you guys have done is pivoted into relationship. And when COVID first hit, everyone said this will be dry and boring, and we're going to lose the human touch. Something mysterious happened the other way, didn't it?
Absolutely. We've never been able to be closer, and it's fascinating to see those connections with people that we literally have not met in person ever. And also the chemistry. We talk about chemistry in business. Chemistry is really important. Two things can look perfect together, but if there isn't that chemistry where you're going to work together well, you've got, it's going to align, then it doesn't work. And literally, I am a big hugger. I just am. But I can feel that feeling now, and I would never have accepted that as a premise before. But you can, and you can be there for each other. You can support each other, and you can create an environment where people understand that being authentic is far more important than a show of strength or power. And so that's the space we create. And also, and I know you see this all the time, Rich, but all of our events and meetings have different cadences and different purposes and different ways that we're serving different parts of our whole executive platform. So it means that it's constantly being varied up, and you're really truly getting to connect with different people in different ways. And so that's just made it so that there is that real relationship, that real connection. I frequently say I have closer relationships and speak far more frequently with hundreds of people than I do my own next door neighbor.
Well, and we're going to keep diving deeper because that's the whole pendulum shift, what's happened. I'm going to open up a poll question here. Everyone that's watching, don't forget the chat box is open. If you have questions in the first half of the show, drop in the chat box. And also the second half of the show, we're going to bring you in and join us. Cameras on, microphones on, and you're going to ask Tricia and myself questions that you want. Take a lot of notes, have a lot of fun, but the chat box is open, the Q&A. Here we go with our first question of the night. On average, and this is for you, the viewers here tonight, on average, what size virtual audience or crowds do you have? 1 to 10, 10 to 30, 30 to 50, 50 to 75, 75 to 100, or 100 plus. So we're going to launch the poll. Everyone cast your vote on what is kind of the average size that you get. And Tricia and I are going to keep on talking for a second here. So that pivot of relationship and business, that's a key component that you do change it up. It's not the same vibe every time. And I coach that you have to change it up. This is part entertainment now. We are TV, and TV has taught us every 7 to 8 minutes, the channel changes, a commercial goes. You've brought that philosophy in the C-Suite that we're going to change up the meetings, look like, sound like, who's leading them. You're going to keep quality, but you got to change it out. How did that emerge? Who led that buzz to make sure that value was put in there?
So in building the business, I have membership, events, councils, partnerships and sponsorships, and our BD teams. So I expect in every one of our areas, there's tremendous leadership and support for everything we decide we're going to do. So I'd say first and foremost, the focus is on high growth. So with our business model changing, we had to go to absolutely no turning back, high growth. We moved from a $10,000 membership to 2,500 and 1,000, right? And by the way, now you can pay monthly. So big changes, big changes. So fast growth was absolutely critical. So you want to be creating the lift, right? So how do you lift from what would be static or going down with COVID? So that's your innovation, and then constantly filling in with your infrastructure. And I like using my hands like this. My team has seen my hands like this way too many
No,
times.
and it should be. You should be.
Keep it nice and simple for people to actually be able to visualize what you're saying. And so we're constantly innovating. So I'll tell you, I know you mentioned Celebrate, Rich. The the way that came about was quite literally, I said to my BD team, okay, March 13th happened. The world has changed. And we had 2 weeks of just figuring things out. We're driving and thriving. We're moving forward. We circled around all of our members, made sure they were supported. We started doing weekly meetings with our team, completely surrounded. We started doing at least 3 meetings with the whole team, and then, individual meetings with each individual team, and make sure, is everybody okay? There's that whole kind of like heat of the stress of everything. Nobody knows exactly what we're facing, what we're looking at. So the first couple of weeks were that. Then I said to the BD team, okay, we had a high contact one-to-one $10,000 membership. Now we have $1,000 membership, and we have to figure out, how do we sell one to many? We never did that,
Mm-hmm.
So it was an abysmal failure what we did. Do you want to hear the whole story, Richard?
Please, because all we hear, which the woo of Jeffrey is always going to outshine everything else. So it's nice to have the other side of reality check. What was going on?
Yeah. So what happened was, I said, okay, we have to figure out this one-to-many sales model. We've never done this before. And frequently in our space, the one-to-many is very smoke and mirrors. It's a lot of it, is it real? Does anyone really care? All of those kinds of things. I have one leader in C-Suite. The only thing she'll say is, you will not believe they actually care about you. It's not just selling a membership. They actually want to know you're okay. They want to know you're showing up. They want to know you're using what you've just bought into, And so anyway, so we said, okay, we've never done this model. It kind of gets into that space. How do we do it our way? And how do we make it work? And so there's no good time. There's absolutely no good time. And remember, I said, we got to innovate, right? We got to push forward. What are we going to do? So I said, okay, 2 days. You're having conversations. We all are. 2 days. It was a Wednesday night at 8:00. Is it Wednesday night at 8:00, Rich?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so that time didn't work so well for us for what we tried to do. so Wednesday at 8:00, I had 4 of my BD team. I had me. I had 2 prospects, and we had a handful of slides. It was terrible, and so terrible that quite literally those 2 people still have not joined. That's how bad it was.
That's a huge comment to come back to later on.
Yes.
I'm going to hold that one. You keep going.
Maybe I'll have you talk to them, Rich. So anyway, it was really, really bad. And I had someone say, Tricia, do you know what the word failure means? I'm like, yeah, I just don't sit in it, So we met right after. So the 2 people drop off, we sat and we brainstormed, and we came up with Celebrate. And another day later, maybe a little bit of wine later in the evening, Rebecca and I, who's our demand gen leader, and she works, she's office of the CEO, support for the whole company. She and I were brainstorming and came up with permission to push pause. And that was just really a way to capture. It's what we all wanted to do as business leaders. Everybody's looking to us for the answers. We don't have all the answers. We're trying to figure it all out, navigate even more than everyone else that's looking to us for answers. So permission to push pause, Celebrate in C-Suite. And I invited, and we decided, very unpopular scenario. So everybody's in crisis, and we say, guess what? We're going to have a party at 5:00 on Friday night. So in addition to all the extra work the team had, but we're going to add something at 5:00 on Friday night where the follow-up happens Saturday morning. Perfect. So anyway, we did it. And I invited 65 people, and I had about 50 people come. And so we knew we were really on to something. And what happened then was we ended up at 80, 85, and now we're well over 100 every Friday night. And it is the most, it is the channel that has generated the most number of new members ever. So we spent millions on in-person meetings over the years. We have never brought on more new members than our Celebrate event on Friday evening.
Fabulous backstory. I really appreciate that. Going back to our polls here, just to see, because you deal in the hundreds, and we do break out smaller group, but you deal in the hundreds. This is what the result is of the group that we have online with us tonight. A lot of them, the vast majority are in the 10 to 30. And then we have a couple in the 75 to 100, and somebody's breaking the 100 a little bit. We got a couple hundreds in there. So take us through. There's a different ways to facilitate this. How do you do 100? Because there's 4 pages open. And I know you got to have multiple screens. I know you have people running behind because you're getting chimes from me, from other people. How do you juggle 100 people and keep us all engaged? What's the magic secret sauce?
It truly is different for different groupings. And so what we do is we strategize. And so with the events team, and so we have our coordinator for all events, and we have our production team. So there is always a run of show. It's never just willy-nilly, let's throw it out there. We have a run of show. We know exactly what our plan is and how we're handling that. So for example, Jeffrey's surprise party last night, I had a very tight run of show. And it's not that I didn't have leeway that I would go in any direction I want. I can, and you want to leave those moments for the real magic of things that are just happening in the moment. But I know what I'm doing, and I know what my strategy is, what my plan is. So you'll notice that we did not have it so that a whole slew of people would jump in with their own stories. And so, and that's really just aligning on the strategy. So this run of show really met my condition of satisfaction, which is another terminology we use here in C-Suite all the time. My condition of satisfaction is I don't want it to be like a run-on memorial service where people are sharing uncomfortable, long, weird stories. That means that everybody else feels they have to too. And the next thing you know, we have everybody up until midnight on a Tuesday night, and it's lost its luster. Right. So the idea was to come up with a way that we could make it Jeffrey's night as his birthday. He's very much vibrant, alive person. and have it so that people could join in by asking him fun questions that brought out, you know, the great stories that he has to share, that only he has to share. And so we were able to get, you know, 115 people, 100 and whatever it was, people engaged, really engaged, and singing and sharing and having gives and asking questions. And I got through all of that in just over an hour. So that meant that I could just open it up and we could have free time that was comfortable for adding in other questions that people had to ask them and just have that full engagement. So you really need to look at and be very purposeful about what is the actual goal of that event and how do you want people engaging. We had another event last week. I know, Rich, you participated in as a podcaster of C-Suite Network, where we were very purposeful. We wanted to have breakout rooms that were intentional for different purposes. So you'd be able to go into those meeting rooms and meet other podcasters, but you'd also be able to meet and talk through a specific topic that was important to you for whatever reasons.
Right.
Right.
So you set the breakup rooms. Here's the topic. Here's the buzz. Go.
Yes.
Come on back, and then we're going to share what you did. That's where the interaction of big to small is so magical.
Right. So we had, again, about 100 people on that call, and that makes it so that the time gets used in a really productive way and brings you back out. So as soon as you do those breakout sessions strategically, you're shortening the event by X numbers of hours, right? So that would be the equivalent of probably, let's say, 4 hours of an event.
Right.
And by doing those breakout sessions and getting people focused in the areas they wanted to focus, we've now saved people that 3.5 hours and gotten them to the most important content for them. So there are just so many great things you can do. And I think I kind of avoided your question a little bit in terms of what benefits me most in my leading.
Yeah.
it's really truly just being authentic and looking at the focus of how we serve most effectively. And our whole team, I'm so, honored, humbled, proud in how we focus to serve every day from that perspective. And it's exciting because as we have this growth, every every grouping within our company is very focused on how we streamline, how we scale exponentially. And for me, what I've seen since the moment I heard the concept from Jeff years ago is very much that $1 billion company that is the platform that makes everything work for executives and influencers that are supporting them.
Well, and I know because Jeffrey was on 2 weeks ago, Jeffrey talked about all the other things the C-suite already has hit on the drawing board. Now, because of this amazing growth cycle, there's even more on the drawing board because this has brought new gas, new creativity.
Yeah.
So, how many Zoom events do you do per week? How much camera time are you hosting and running?
I am hosting anywhere between, it really depends. Uh, I'm hosting anywhere between 3 events a day and one a day typically. So I will be hosting several a week myself. And yeah, so we'll be at over 300 events this year digitally.
So, stage time is one thing.
Mhm.
This is now because there is no crowd, there's no energy, there's no that you have to be on. And this is what we're coaching here. We're trying to get people to understand you got to be up. Every time you're on, you're on. What keeps you energized? What keeps you doing when that camera, Jeffrey thought he was going to do an interview last night. The
Mhm.
minute Jeffrey sat down, and there was a great clip out on Twitter today, I saw late of him and the initial surprise. You could see it, the shock, all the energy, but also relaxing of like, oh, I'm not doing an interview, but he has full makeup on.
Yes.
How do you stay energized like that to do all that you do?
I get asked that question probably more than any other question. And for me, it's just such an alignment of what my mission is and what I am doing. So I cannot help but get excited. For me, business builders are the most important people in the community. They are the people who can build um, great spaces. It's not just economy. It's the space we live our lives in. And whether that's a virtual space or a real physical space, that's the space we live our lives in. And that's where you can get sustainable success that has real impact. We give back to the Little League and we support the local orchestra and the drum. It's what great business leaders do. And so for us to be able to be on and support in this way is so critical. And I think also there are so many things that executives are taught along the way that are wrong, just wrong, right? Don't be authentic, right? Show up and pretend. There's nothing worse than somebody who shows up on this stage virtually and fakes it. I mean, it's the worst. It's
Thank you.
right?
Soundbite right there. We're done. No, and that's actually true because they're sliding in. They're thinking they can just cruise on this when in fact the truth is this is a stage. This is television. This is something big and huge. Instead of throttling back, they should throttle into it.
Right. Zoom in. That's what Bill Wallace had just coined that phrase last week. And I love it. Zoom in and then make sure that you're creating this space for you to really connect with what your impact is. So I mentioned conditions of satisfaction earlier. One of my first condition of satisfaction in life, and the reason why conditions of satisfaction are so important, I should say this first. The reason they're so important is because they help you focus no matter where you are, no matter who you're with, and no matter what your day consists of. Your conditions of satisfaction apply. So my first condition of satisfaction is every day I want to be reaching for my great. I want to learn and grow till the day I die. That's how you live, right? And the second part to that is I want to help everybody I touch get to their great, which is the appreciation of the diversity, the strength, the incredible impact that everyone that's aligned in terms of building great businesses that have great impact have. And so when you have that condition of satisfaction in place for you, you can meet that no matter where you are. It doesn't matter that you're virtual. It doesn't matter that one day is with your family One day is with your work colleagues or people that are your clients or people that are watching your show. I mean, it doesn't matter. All that matters is you have that condition of satisfaction, which can be met with anybody in any place.
So going forward, we're going to bring everyone in here in a second. We're going to launch one more poll when we transfer everybody in. But while we're doing that, what do you think is going forward for business? What is the real impact of the virtual stage? Because again, go back to April, May. Everyone thought, okay, this is going to be a 2-3 week band-aid. We went to 4 to 6. It was like, I'm really not going to adopt it. This is stupid. Midsummer, we thought we were going to come back around. Now we're going back the other way. People are really coming on board. What do you think this tool, this stage really does for business going forward?
I mean, it's incredibly powerful. And while we all hope to do in person again, obviously, this will not change. This is such a powerful platform and one that will be augmented by in person. So for us, we're looking at how soon can we get to some kind of hybrid model that when we are traveling and we're with a group of 25 to 50 people, we then also go out to our audience and have it so the rest of our family can join in to the conversation. So this, I think, is doing a lot of really important work for us. A lot of us were very comfortable with where we were, and as I said, Rich, I don't think we're alone in saying, it would have been 2 to 5 years before we even joked about getting this far ahead in terms of how we think of online and our media presence in Zoom and other tools that people are using. So it's tremendous.
And I really think that's a key phrase. This is a media presence. This
Mhm.
isn't less for them. This actually is becoming bigger than and is a media presence. And for leaders and executives and organizations, they need to understand this is media and you need to treat it as media. While we bring everybody in, welcome to the virtual stage. Have you bring on cameras in a little bit. We're going to have you one by one bring off microphones. One final question here quickly for you. What's the craziest mix-up you have had since going virtual? Jeffrey talked about some of his mishaps, but what you as an MC, as the host, you are the face a lot of times of the organization Zoom-wise. What's the biggest mix-up you've had?
We've we've all, I think, experienced probably the ones that we've had. I know Jeffrey's story is pretty entertaining. The usual ones of somebody comes to the door, right, and the doorbell's ringing and all of those kinds of things, calling on speakers and somehow they've just been dropped off. There are a number of things that I think happens to all of us. But the thing is, and this is the way it is to succeed in business. Things happen. So what? Nobody. If nobody died, then we move on. And again, Jeff, if you've heard his speeches, he frequently ends a speech with his Jacques Cousteau story, which is basically, you never fear for your well-being or your life when you're in good company. And so, we definitely jump in and support each other. I know, were you at our, which one was it? I think it was our Battleship event.
Actually, I joined the week after.
Week
So
after.
I tried everything to get into that.
Right.
Patricia Robes was on me like a bad rash. So the week after I literally landed and everyone ranted and raved for the first push pause. And that was part of the one I said, okay, I just missed that. I ain't missing anything else. And literally I signed up on the dotted line during that meeting.
So that was the middle of April. And so third week in, we'd had to cancel our in-person conference and we moved it online. And Jeff and I were hosting 3 days in a row. On the third day, I think it was, the whole internet for my entire area went out. So that was the most stressful moment I've had with all of COVID and hosting, because there was just nothing I could do. And I bought every additional thing to up my ampage, and have direct Ethernet and all of that. And none of it was working in any way, shape, or form. I even went running down my road to try and grab a hotspot on a different server from my neighbor down the road. Nothing worked. So that was probably the most stressful moment I've had. But of course, we back each other up. So every time we have any event, there is that run a show. So so if somebody goes out, then each of us is able to jump in and support and make things happen, and that's just what you do.
Well, we're going to open it up to everyone else now. You guys get the chance to ask question to Tricia regarding the stage, the speaking, the leadership, whatever your particular mind is wanting to go to. Just raise your hand, unmute yourself. If you have trouble, I'll help unmute you. But welcome to the virtual stage. Who would like to go first tonight?
It's so great to see you, Nina and Mike. Angela, nice to meet you.
Okay, Mike.
Robert.
You're going to be unmuted here, Mike, and we're hopefully unmuting you.
That's hilarious because I was just waving at Tricia.
There you go. And now you are all told.
Hi, Tricia. Good to see you. By the way, everybody, Mike's going to be on next week. So
yes.
Mike's in the online deck next week right now. So go, Mike.
I'll pretend I don't know how to do this right now so that I don't ruin this surprise. Tricia, I think that you guys, I just have a comment about how great the evolution has been, and setting the standard for how you can do online big group, small group events. And clearly, no question, you admitted this, it's been a trial and error process.
Yes.
But you've really found some sweet spots in it. And so I guess one of the big questions would be, as it grows, how are you going to continue to manage like the 10 screen deep relationships? Like breakout rooms are great, but at a certain point that even that might be overwhelmed. So how do you think that you may do that?
Well, we're constantly working through it every day, Mike. And that's where the business piece of it fits in. So what I didn't say about Celebrate is not only is Celebrate phenomenal, but that model of how we innovate and we keep what works, right? We support that so that when we drop off the stuff that doesn't work, we're still on that scaling success. So every day that we're doing these events, we literally have a debrief, and I have a weekly operations meeting with the events team, and all of our decisions, all of our ideas, everything is being systematized and evaluated and then delivered on. So we're getting very clear about everybody's role and the expectations and agreements that we have with each other to deliver on them. And so it's just a constant, how do you up the quality of that time together and the deliverable against what's happening? So Celebrate, for example, you'll notice it's been a phenomenal event for us. We absolutely love it. We truly celebrate, bring a glass, water to whiskey, and enjoy the time together. And when we were smaller, so even at 85, I didn't need to have breakouts. I really did not need to have breakouts. Now that we're consistently well over 110, I absolutely need breakouts. And so, so we're constantly evolving and seeing to that. Now, another thing that's happening technically in the background is Celebrates is an open house. So that creates a great deal of complication. So what happens in the background is I've got a live sheet that the whole team is in monitoring who's on every single screen. So you're right, Rich, I can't see everybody. Mike, I can't see everybody. But what happens is the team is all monitoring every single video. So I even know when you are on video. If you go off video, I can't come to you. I don't know. You might have had to take a break. You might have somebody at your door.
Right.
So that is being monitored and being updated for me in real time so that I can get through. And it's not even just knowing you're there. It's making the flow so that it feels natural and everybody's getting excitement out of whatever's happening. And there's constant value in various ways. So there are tools. Now, in addition to that, so while that's happening, we now have more people in that document than we did before because we also have the follow-up from that. So we want you to know, thank you for coming. You were a guest of C-Suite. And if you want to find out more about us, we'd love to set up time with you. Well, now we need to know, okay, who on our team is going to be doing that follow-up to make sure that person has that attention paid to them and so on. So there are a lot of pieces to it, but it's just constant, that constant innovation and then filling in the infrastructure. Now we've used that model and we've applied it to our higher end memberships. So I've got, for our Hero Club members now, weekly, I have a 1 hour chat that's only for CEOs, founders, and investors that have been vetted. They're aligned on our values. So our values, put people first is the easiest way of saying it, and build great businesses that way. And so I have that 1 hour session, and essentially it's celebrate, but just for a handful of CEOs, founders, investors that have already been vetted and aligned. So we're building not just for that really large grouping, but also how we apply those learnings to each audience in a meaningful way.
Oh, that's
So
great.
Tricia,
Thanks,
just
Tricia.
what you described was you're really show running now. You're not just doing a webinar. You're not doing a podcast. The multiple screens, the multiple hands, and it's like you got the earpiece in, and you got the director telling you where to go. You have cues and stuff. You guys are really show running an event every Friday or every major event. That's a big pivot for everyone to think about it as a company, as an executive. That really, this is a show.
Yes, we had one digital meeting a month prior to COVID. We'll do over 300 this year. And just as an example, with my events and production team, my request for the digital discussion, which is when we have in our big speakers, is I want it to be the best executive TV show on the planet. That's the vision, that's the goal, right? So now we're slotting what the time slots look like for how we do call-ins, how we give away, have giveaways, all the different things that will make it the best executive TV show on the planet. And it's exciting because every week we have that operations meeting and people are bringing ideas to the table. They're working together. We're using different tools and technology to support that ongoing build across the team. So, nobody, you remember Josh Kaufman talked about commander's intent?
Yes.
Right. Yes. So our team is running on commander's intent. We need this to be the best executive TV show on the planet. How are we going to do that? And so that way everybody's running to the same, goalpost, and we're having fun and we're excited along the way. And every little step is another step closer, whether it works or not, it's still a step closer. And that's something I think people forget. You have to take those steps. It's still one step closer, just faster, do it faster.
Wonderful. Who else has got a question? Raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask something of Tricia. Nina, did you jump on your mic?
On my mic, but I'm all ears.
I just saw the mic go off. I thought maybe you were jumping in.
No. I just wanted to say, because I'm in Australia, I've been following C-Suite for a couple of years because I attended a Thought Summit in 2018, and I'm miffed that I didn't find out until July that you had these Friday night things. I don't know why I missed it. I mean, I wasn't following it closely, but I know I've been invited to things, come over to Chicago. It's like, well, in Australia, we can't just hop on a plane to come over for a short event. It's a major trip. So I'm really pleased that you've gone global.
Thank you.
Talk about that for a second, Tricia. How have you guys maneuvered, promoted? Because again, this is a different new promotional tool. Everyone's trying to figure out how to promote it. How have you guys promoted? Yes, you had your own natural Rolodex, but it's gone beyond that.
Well beyond that. Yeah, it's so exciting. We have had word of mouth members globally for years now. But now it's so easy. I mean, I get to see Nina every week, and that's just for one of the events. It's tremendous. And the connectivity to great people, we're able to extend that network, and then our members in other places in the world are extending that network to us. And when you think about great business, then one of the most costly mistakes, if not the most costly mistake you can make as a business leader, is putting your trust and partnering in a bad person, right? A bad business partner. And that will cost you more than anything, because time is the most expensive resource we have, and a bad partner will they'll take all of it, and in various ways. And so to be able to connect through to great people all around the world and create that community, which is very much our DNA. Great people are and know great people. And so now any one of our members that knows Nina from Friday night can say, hey, Nina, who would I work with, or who would I contact in Australia about this? Who should I work with? Right. And so it really just massively, exponentially grows each of our networks to operate in other countries, and for other leaders to come into and operate with us. And there's some really significant opportunities both ways on that.
Global impact is amazing through the virtual stage. It really is.
Mhm.
Who else has got a question? Pop off your mic, raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll throw another one, but I want to give you guys a chance to make sure your great questions are delivered. Talk about the power of the chat box, because one of the things that so many people have found out now, because there are 4 screens, there's 120 people, but we're dropping in LinkedIn contact, we're dropping in value added. Let's trade this, let's offer this. People are not using the chat box the way C-Suite has now learned to use the chat box. Was that a learning curve, or was that something you guys all just knew you had to utilize it, or how did that morph and grow?
It was definitely a learning curve, because at first there's sort of that screaming out into the ether, and people kind of forgetting that there are other people on the other side of that chat. And so what we did is we made a very conscious decision to set the ground rules. So our values are relevancy, reach, and reciprocity. And you'll notice for those of you who are participating in C-Suite events, we'll say relevancy, reach, and reciprocity just before you're heading out into some kind of activity where you're sharing with each other, or a new member is being introduced, or there are going to be asks and gives. And so the relevancy piece is about, listen, awesome to share. Please share and engage as much as possible, but make sure it's relevant to the people that you're sharing it with. So don't just yell and expect people to hear you. Share something relevant. Nina?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think a really big plus is the gives and the asks, because I've been in a lot of communities doing virtual. None of them do this. It's every now and again, maybe one person says, I've got this and it's a resource. But no, it's just something that you get to throw in the chat box and people connect as they wish to. I think that's such a plus.
Thank you. Yes, it's just been absolutely wonderful. And it's funny because there are so many asks with a give, and gives with an ask, and just gives. I have people lining up and sending me notes every single week about a new give they have, or something they want to be able to give kudos to somebody else, or bring a guest or something like that. It can be overwhelming for people on their first time, and so we have to say, Louis, just trust us, this is the most giving community you're ever going to see. And don't worry, it'll take 2, 3, 4 times before you really kind of follow everything that's going on. And that's just normal around here. But yes, that the way that we introduce members into C-Suite Network, which is another challenge that we needed to solve immediately when the business model changed, is I needed a way to actually embrace our membership. So how would we do that? And so the welcome of the C-Suite Network on Friday evening, the new members introduce themselves with who they are, what they're passionate about, what they want in coming into C-Suite Network. So what is their ask? Why are they here? What do they want to be able to get from joining in and leading in C-Suite? And then what do they have to give? And so it just really sets everybody up with a clear expectation of why, what the ground rules are in our membership, and in across our platform, of course. And then also it's a great reminder for all of us. Wait a second. And I've had people do this as well, where it's like, oh yeah, that's in another group that I'm part of. Right, here we are. This is what we do here. This is who we are here, and you can switch your brain over to, this is what we do in this space. And those things are so important. And I think create the consistency of the value system that we're all tapped into. And that's really important in leading a community. And that's another question I frequently get is, why are people like that? Why is everybody so giving? Why are people collaborating when they both do the same thing? I don't understand. Those two people do the same thing. What I don't understand. And I really think it's because that values alignment and just being clear, this is what we do here. This is who we are. And if you want to call somebody out, great, stand in that, own it. and you better be authentic about it in terms of how that's going to help, right? How that's going to help them. And it's just truly phenomenal to see that everybody draws out the best in each other. Right now, Rich, you're drawing the best out of all of us. And that's something that, we build together in community. And that's why the community piece of it is so important, obviously.
And that is fun to see, more people showcasing, highlighting, bringing the best. And through that, it elevates other people. And again, that was not expected in the virtual stage. No one thought you would cross-pollinate the way we have. What other questions do we have here tonight? Anyone else got another question? Don't let her off too easy, you guys. What has been the thing that you've learned, Tricia, of not to do again? What has been the thing you've learned? Like, again, trial and error is always the best learner. But what have you as a team or even as a person said, nope, we ain't going to do that one again?
I think when you're building businesses, so I came from 3 enterprise-sized organizations. I was an executive at all of them. Youngest VP in North America, the first one, built multi-million-dollar businesses, merged and integrated businesses into the mothership of the North American company. And I think there are certain things that you learn with time. So you have these ideas and you build success, and it's fantastic. But I think there are those things that you build with time where it's like, okay, I've got to really ensure that I'm prioritizing my time. And I've got to think to how I lead a team to succeed as quickly as possible. So I'd say one thing I'm very conscious of is how I prioritize my time and who I invest in so that they can have maximum success and impact in their growth to support the rest of the team in whatever they're leading. And so I'd say, what have I dropped? I've dropped the idea that I can somehow be everything to everybody, that you just cannot be. And I think that's really critical. There's never been a time to really, really understand and embrace. If you're not building everybody in your company into leaders and supporters, and the more you have sign-off ability, the more you are the one that's giving approval, the more you're a supporter. If you don't do that, you will implode. There's just no way to serve, and especially in challenging environments or fast growth environments. So really keying into that and focus in on prioritizing your time with the people that will have the most impact in having your business succeed.
Fantastic. In a couple minutes here that we have, this is one of my gift surprises that we don't reveal. Everyone has a secret on this one, but that's been around here. We give our guests the opportunity to hear back from you, the people that have listening in. If you want to give your biggest takeaway, whatever you want to say to Tricia to thank her for her time, whatever the biggest aha of the night was, raise your hand, open up your mic, and you get to just give it back to her, as this is part of our gift to you, Tricia, to say thanks for taking the time to do this tonight. So does anyone want to open up your mic and go for it?
Yeah, I do. It's just what you just said, Trish, about leaders and supporters. Is that just a C-suite term, or is that actually becoming a best practice term in management per se now? It was, there were subordinates, and then it was direct reports, and then it was individual contributors. But I really like leaders and supporters. So is that just a C-suite thing, or are you picking up on a trend?
I'm so grateful for that question. This is mine. I drew this map for my team 20 years ago. And so the idea is, and I'll do this as quickly as I possibly can.
So this is why I love doing this, because you never know what's going to happen at the end of the show. This is the whole new thing that we also have landed on, Tricia, and it turns the table around, but also real gold happens. So this is great that you're literally doodling one of the things you designed. This is awesome.
Yes. Okay. So I drew this map, and it was literally, I was trying to explain to my team, look, we're growing really fast. It was building a multi-million-dollar business out of what was traditionally a cost center, right? A market research center in a $20 billion company. And so I was changing it to a fast growth multi-million-dollar business. So I gave them this, and I was literally drawing it out, trying to explain to them what I wanted and how I wanted them to visualize and feel what I was talking about. So the idea is, can you read this the right way, or is it backward for you?
No, you were good on that, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So what I wanted to see was the leader is leading, and then the supporter is supporting, and then that supporter becomes the leader, and that's how you leapfrog forward, right? So you're essentially, you're showing the leadership and you're getting support. So let's say if I'm heading up a group, we've got a big sales pitch, I'm leading that because I'm saying this is what I want the pitch to look like, and I need to be able to give that, and I need to win the business for us, right? And I've got an admin assistant who's putting that deck together for me. That person's supporting me, right? So they're kind of coming in here and behind and supporting me. Now I want them to learn from that experience. So I'm figuring out ways that I can have them lead, right? So with this team that I built this for, I would have my interns, my admin, my junior people do all of the presentations and moderations for our team meetings. And that meant they were on the hot seat. They knew what it felt like. So when I was ready to get them promoted and I needed them stepping up and presenting in front of our smaller clients or different opportunities, I could count on them. In the meantime, they were giving me great support because they knew what it felt like to sit on that hot seat. And and now I have a book that's going to be coming out called The Empathetic Leader. And the leading and supporting is actually in the subtitle because it's critical. It's just critical. If you want people to leapfrog success, if you want them to leapfrog your growth, they have to be learning fast, and you have to create those opportunities for them to take leadership, for them to take ownership, and really feel the passion and excitement of delivering something great. So that event last night for Jeffrey, everyone on the team felt great about their piece in it and what they were able to do. And everyone else that helped us and kept it quiet, the whole of C-Suite Network, we all managed together to keep it quiet, but everybody was leading and supporting. Everybody was leading and supporting and owning those pieces to take that pride and ownership and the delivery of the results.
Nina, I think you got our passion. I think we got her pumped up now.
I want to know when your book's coming out.
Okay, so this is the date right now, 1/21/21.
Awesome.
Yes.
Mike, I think you have one. Mike, jump on in here.
Question. Well, I wanted to say thank you, Tricia, for sharing. I love learning behind the scenes because I always, it's easy. It's not that easy to make it look like the swan is just cruising along on the top of the water, but it's really, it really fascinates me to understand how the legs are moving and to share that. And also to share that sometimes it's like, oh crap.
Yes.
we just hit a stump and now it's time to navigate it. So I think that's very helpful. I appreciate the insights tonight. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much, Mike. I find it so interesting in business, and I think sometimes we feel it in sports. Maybe that's how it starts when we're younger, but there's this notion that somehow perfection means the best, and it seldom does. And I'll frequently use a sentence where I'll say, great, you got an A in school, fantastic. What did it do for the business? I could give one. Are we allowed to swear on your show, Which?
Yes, yeah.
Honestly, I feel very passionately about this as well. I could give two shits whether you got an A or it was perfect. What I care about is it deliver the value of what was needed, and did it move us faster? If I waited for perfection, I would not have hosted that crappy initial practice run or pilot of what Celebrate would become for a month. And if I hadn't done it for a month, maybe we would never have done it because there would have been other things that we thought, oh, shiny object, maybe that would be better. Pushing forward as fast as possible. You're going to fall on your face. Who cares? So what?
No question about that. I always agree with that too.
Yeah.
But, the great thing is you have a great team who can add some polish to that. So congratulations on that.
And that's a big part of what I wanted Trish to get on here tonight, besides the presence, besides the ability that she has to run the Zoom box, besides that a magic gift that she has. I wanted to share take us behind the the veil, pull up the curtain a little bit, and show people just exactly what this whole thing is like. Coming up next week, it will be Mike Scribnick will be with us. He will be my star next week on the hot seat on How to Rock the Virtual Stage. So come on back for that. Mike has the Grow, Get, Give, and he's helping people in their businesses to grow, to get wealthier, and make a larger impact. Mike and I are also going to have a special announcement next week. Quiet, Mike. No. And then in 2 weeks, Carol Kammermer is going to join me, and we're going to have the internationally recognized personal branding expert on the show tonight in 2 weeks to share there. Tricia, you get the final word here tonight. What final takeaways, words would you have us for the lady that rocks the virtual stage so much as a host and star every week with C-Suite? What would you tell us?
I would say make sure that you give yourself the grace to live in the moment and make mistakes in pursuit of greatness. And that greatness can be the smallest thing to the largest thing. And maybe that's part of the grace, but I really can't thank you enough, Rich. This has been so wonderful. And thank you all so much for great questions and great feedback. It's a lot of fun. And it's wonderful to actually just be able to go on your ride. You don't
have to push a button tonight. You don't have to do anything.
I almost didn't know whether to put my glasses on or not, because, I can't really see without them, but I don't really need to see either. So, anyway, thank you so much, Rich.
Thank you, everyone, to be with us. Don't forget, 8 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Mountain time. We go live next week, and it's 1 hour interactive, and we're going to get you rocking the virtual stage again next week. Until then, I'm the Trigger, Rich Bontrager. God bless. Have a great week, everybody, and keep rocking.